Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Thirsty Thursday, where we comb through the hundreds of tweets from America's fiercest keyboard warrior, Congressman Derrick Van Orden. This week involved falling for AI Slop to spreading conspiracy theories. So, grab a glass and join us for Thirsty Thursday. This week, Van Orden's Daddy of the Week is America's favorite roadkill-eating anti-vax conspiracy theorist, RFK Jr. Now, in case you needed any more evidence that Van Orden's re-election campaign is in a downward spiral, look no further. Van Orden dragged Kennedy to Elkmount to sell rural Wisconsinites on the Trump administration's agenda. The issue here? Farm bankruptcies have exponentially increased as a result of the administration's tariff taxes, along with an illegal war in Iran that is making fuel and fertilizer costs skyrocket. But don't you worry, RFK Jr. was just the opening act for Van Orden's parade of clowns coming to Wisconsin. On the same day RFK Jr. was in town, Trump announced he would be making a stop in western Wisconsin later this week. Do you guys smell that? Because it smells like desperation to us. On the same day RFK Jr. was in town, Van Orden tweeted, "Pray for Madison, we are waiting for more information," despite nothing happening in Madison that would warrant this tweet. Then, when asked about the tweet, Van Orden said this. Now, was Van Orden trying to be funny? Did he fall for fake news? Again? Honestly, we don't know. What we do know is that this moment captures everything wrong with his time in Congress. This tweet sent Madisonians and Wisconsinites across the state scrambling, confused, and alarmed, wondering if they were in danger or if something tragic had struck the state capitol. All because of a sitting congressman who couldn't be bothered to think before hitting post. Now it's time to talk about Van Orden's worst take of the week. With increasing escalation at an ICE facility in New Jersey, Van Orden of course had to put in his 2 cents. In typical DVO fashion, instead of addressing the root of the problem, Van Orden decided that these were paid Antifa protesters, which sounds more like something your deranged uncle would post on Facebook than something a sitting member of Congress should be saying. To make matters worse, Van Orden decided that these protesters are being manipulated by the Democratic Party to go die for them in these protests, saying that the Democrats need another martyr, which we can't even get into how distasteful those comments are. In Van Orden's twisted distortion of reality, he cannot fathom that people do not like the conditions ICE detainees are forced to stay in, so it must be paid protesters that are being used as political pawns by the Democratic Party. Once he's out of Congress, he has a great future ahead of him in QAnon conspiracy theory Reddit threads. Well, Love Island started this week, which means summer has officially started. And Hot Girl Summer, Brat Summer, move aside. This year we're starting AI Slop Summer and Derrick Van Orden will be our leader. Van Orden once again fell for AI, replying to an account posting one of the most obviously AI photos we have ever seen. This Thirsty Thursday host's favorite feature is the missing stem of the wine glass, but the lack of fingers is also the cherry on top. But seriously, should we really have a man in office that easily falls victim to AI Slop engagement farming? I feel like there are a few more pressing things Van Orden could be focusing on, like the cost of gas or the impact of tariffs in his district. Well, that is all the crazy we can touch on this week. We hope you enjoyed this installment of Thirsty Thursday. We regret to inform you that we will not be seeing you next week as we prepare for our state convention. However, we look forward to seeing you the following week to unpack all the wacky things Van Orden says then.